More on the numbers, but right now let's get you to North Carolina. The former president in Greenville after that stop in the Asheville area earlier in the day. Of course, so much hurricane damage. And speaking of Asheville, NewsNation's Mills Hayes is there, joins us now ahead of this second Trump event. But what's been the message from the former president in North Carolina today, Mills?
Hey, Connell. Well, former President Donald Trump was here in Swannanoa, a community hard hit by Helene. It's actually just outside of Asheville, and he spoke with first responders, small business owners who lost everything, and he praised the people who are working around the clock, but he did criticize FEMA once again. Now, we did talk to some of his supporters today, and they say that they were very grateful that he was here because they don't want to be forgotten. And as I mentioned, he was criticizing FEMA. He says that under his administration, if he's elected, come January 20th, there will be a new cruise in town to come and help these people. He did start off his remarks in a somber tone, really trying to connect with the people here who have lost everything. And we asked him what he plans to focus on in the next 2 weeks in the final stretch of the campaign. He says he's planning to work around the clock, just like those first responders and helpers here in North Carolina.
We're workers. I don't know if it's the best thing. We didn't have to be. A lot of them didn't have to be. I didn't have to be. I could have been on a beautiful beach, but I'd much rather be right here with you because we're going to turn the country around. I have no days off, so I'll be going into the 60s or 70s in terms of no days off. I don't want a day off. We have to win. We have to win. We have to save our country, and we have to just make America great again. That's the message.
And FEMA did have to move locations in another part of North Carolina because of threats made against them. And there was one reporter who asked Donald Trump today if he felt like the criticism that he was giving FEMA was helpful. And Trump said that he and everyone is entitled to criticize people when they're not doing the best job. Connell?
Yeah, I think the issue there is not criticism, but misinformation, which we're going to get into with our panel in a moment. I am curious, before we let you go, though, Mills, about the voters in North Carolina. With all the damage, we could see some of it behind you. We wondered about whether people would be able to get out to vote, whether there'd be any impact on enthusiasm for the election in such a key state. What are you seeing down there?
Well, we saw long lines at the early voting sites on Thursday, and that's when it kicked off. And so far, more than 1 million people have voted here in North Carolina. That's about 13% of the registered voters here in North Carolina. And former President Donald Trump did talk about that today. He said he wants people to come out and vote, but he said he'd be happy if about 50% of the people in Western North Carolina showed up to the polls, because voting is kind of a second priority for those people, because many of them have lost their homes, their livelihoods. And so he says he'll be happy with about a 50% show because he just wants those people to focus on rebuilding right now. And he also talked a lot about how he wanted to reach out to the community there because it is a little bit more difficult for them to vote. So many people have lost their IDs, but here in North Carolina, people are able to fill out an exception form if they lost their ID in the hurricane, so they are still able to vote. It's just a little bit of a different process this year. Connell?
Yep, yeah, you would think. All right, Mills, thank you. Mills Hayes, live, that hard-hit Asheville area, North Carolina.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.